Hello, everyone, and welcome. We're so excited that you have chosen to join us today for Susan Freeman's special book launch celebration. So as you're coming in, you'll note that we are going to invite you to type in the chat. We would love to know where you're calling in from today. And the chat is actually going to serve two purposes today. One of the purposes is for all of us to connect and engage live in the moment. And the second purpose is that this chat will be an ongoing virtual guest book for Susan. So it's the perfect place for you to type your congratulations, share your well wishes, talk about a difference that Susan has made in your life through her work. So consider that chat your virtual guest book today. We would love to have you join us in the chat right now. Let us know where you're calling in from today, what brings you today to today's special event. You will notice that as you came in, you are muted, and we would love for you to stay muted throughout today's event to maintain the audio integrity of the event for the recording for those who can't be with us in person. But we will have a special moment later in the event where you can unmute your microphone to speak to Susan live, and also where we can make a lot of noise to cheer for her. In the meantime, you're free to use those emojis in the bottom of your Zoom panel to show your reactions and feelings, like I'm doing right now with the heart on my slide. So welcome to all of you who are joining for today's very special event. We are here for Susan Freeman's book launch celebration, and we are so glad that you have joined us. This looks like the perfect opportunity to take a look at all of us who are gathered. For those of you who are in the gallery mode, you should be able to look and see that there are many people who have joined. You might have to slide back and forth twice to be able to see all of the show of support for Inner Switch. If you have your book, would you hold it up now? We would love to see your copy. If it's, oh, look at all those copies of the book, Susan. Are you seeing them across the cameras? That is absolutely amazing. So because you are likely friends and colleagues and those who have been a part of Susan's world, she likely needs no introduction, but I do want to call out a few special things about Susan. She has had an incredible career as an executive coach, a team coach, an author, a speaker, and a leadership development consultant. And as you will hear throughout today's event, Susan has a unique approach to leadership development that is unparalleled by others, in that she's able to incorporate this wisdom from the Eastern approaches, and she's able to do so in a way that's modern and relevant and relatable by today's leaders. So I'm so excited for us to hear from Susan throughout today's event. And we do want to begin right now by giving her a chance to introduce some special guests and acknowledge those of you who have joined with us today. So Susan, I'm going to call on you next.
Good afternoon. It is really, truly the thrill of a lifetime to be here today. In celebration of launching Inner Switch, 7 timeless principles to transform modern leadership. Thank you all for taking time out of your busy days to be with me today. Being a global citizen has always been a very important part of my life, and so I'm especially privileged to say that today is truly a global event, as we have friends, family, and colleagues from 7 countries outside the United States, including Canada, Italy, Portugal, Rwanda, Sweden, United Arab Emirates, and the United Kingdom. I never dreamt of being a published author at any point in my life, and so the fact that I'm here today is a bit mysterious to me. What I know for sure is that this book would not have been possible without the help, support, and dedication of many individuals. My heartfelt appreciation goes to the following people: Rania Anderson and Dr. Marquita Wells for shepherding me to such talented book professionals. Stephanie Gunning for being my book whisperer and for believing in the concept when it was just an outline and for helping me to shape the early manuscript. Leticia Gomez of Savvy Literary, my agent, whose enthusiasm for my book proposal translated into timely action and a publishing deal. To my early readers, Maria Arnone, Elizabeth Dearborn Hughes, Doctors Brian and Mary Natras, Dr. Stephen Stumpf, Dr. Marquita Wells, and Mazahiko Wotani. Thank you for your friendship over these many years and for taking the time to read and provide such thoughtful feedback. Your early endorsement made it possible for me to move forward to publication. Entrepreneur Press, Sean Strain, and the entire team of professionals who polished this manuscript, designed a compelling cover, and who believed in this book and are supporting it through their extensive media platforms in print, online, and in webinars. And last, but most importantly, Dr. Tom Freeman, my husband and life partner of 43 years, who believed in my ability to write this book when I had trouble believing in it myself, and whose supercomputer brain supported me long before there was ChatGPT, and whose love, patience, and constant encouragement continue to be my bedrock during the writing, editing, and grueling process of bringing a book into the world. I love you to the stars and back. Thank you.
Susan, that's amazing. And what a joy it is to celebrate you on this very special day. I next want to introduce Sean Strain, who's a vice president from Entrepreneur Books and a publisher, and he's going to share a little bit about why this title was so important to him and to his team. Sean, welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Becky. I appreciate the introduction, and thank you so much, Susan, for your very kind words. It was definitely a very unique experience to be a part of your book launch. And I just want to walk you through a little bit of kind of who I am and what Entrepreneur Press is all about for those of you who are unfamiliar. So I'm Sean Strain, as they mentioned. I'm the VP of Entrepreneur Press. And we're very excited to be a part of Susan's book, Inner Switch. You know, Entrepreneur Press has gone through so many changes over the last few years in an effort to try to stay relevant and adapt in a very ever-changing marketplace. But at our core, the mission has never changed, right? We've always been here to equip entrepreneurs, leaders, and small business owners with the tools that they need to find success. In recent years, Entrepreneur Press has become very selective with the author-driven books that we pursue. Just give you a little bit of insight. In fact, 85 to 90% of all the proposals that we receive never make it through to the secondary round of the selection process. So we have a very curated annual front list of just 10 to 12 books that we publish per year. So we're really a boutique publisher. For those of you who are familiar with our publication, you may know that we do about 40% of our own internal publications a year, which means like Wiley does, we do the kind of like the For Dummies series. So of those, even less of those books are from individual authors who we want to work with outside of our organization. So we were looking for authors to have relevant messages to bring to our audience and the world, but also authors who really understand the true scope of what it means to publish a successful book. I remember like we told Susan this at the start of our working relationship together, that book publishing is a marathon, not a race. And it truly is. And I think Susan and I can both speak to that during the process that we've been on and the ride during this book. In the case of Inner Switch, what you have is an extremely unique title. It's not only groundbreaking in its approach, but it comes at a time where, for us as a publisher, we can see a lot of changing work and leadership habits in the space, as well as a high desire, for work-life balance, and it's at an all-time high. On the top of that, this book it's more than a book, and it's an experience that transforms the reader as they flip through the pages. And it goes far beyond our standard start your own business title to target the reader and change their entire mindset rather than just their habits. It's a topic that really caught my attention very early on in the process. And our editor at the time, which Susan may remember, had actually already proposed to us a yogic leadership book only a couple months before Susan naturally came along in the process. So it all seemed very natural from an early stage. Watching Susan develop and craft the book as we moved through the process, I knew we just had something very special on our hands. Inner Switch is an entrepreneur standard book. You know, it dives pretty deep into concepts of personal development that I can't say I've seen a comparable, book in our backlist catalog. So it's a really unique addition to our set of books for us. It really brings an important message to our audience in the world, and it's very important for Entrepreneur Press to be part of unique books that drive impact. And this East meets West style knowledge and wisdom has the power to really transform leadership in an impactful and meaningful way. As far as the future for this book goes, I don't just see books as a product now for Entrepreneur. It's part of an overall living and breathing piece of material that has the power and potential to enact change. So we really want to see Inner Switch become larger than life, right? We want to see it pop off the pages and become a real paradigm shift for people and our audience alike. There's more to come. surrounding this book. Features, like Susan mentioned, we have a webinar coming out Thursday, May 11th this week, and there's going to be a lot more features in our magazine and our publication. We're really looking forward to doing more. Congratulations again, Susan. It was an honor to be a part of such a pivotal moment for you in your life. And we're very excited for the launch of your book in print and digital tomorrow. Keep an eye out for the audiobook version of the book, which will be available this fall. And that's my time, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sean.
Thank you, Sean. So Susan asked me to take a moment to share a little bit. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Becky Robinson. I'm the founder and CEO of Weaving Influence. And my team and I have worked with authors to launch over 200 business books in the last decade. And Susan asked me to share a little bit about what our team and what I found unique about InnerSwitch. As I start, one of the things I want to say, Susan, is I appreciate how much you brought your personal journey to this book. So even from the early pages, I felt like I immediately knew you in a more deep way, hearing about your own kind of coming to terms with these practices and how they could help you heal from pain in your life. And it is so powerful when an author chooses to bring her own humanity to her work. And you are so clearly evident on these pages, Susan. So I commend you for that. I wrote down something that really stood out to me. You were talking about those early years where everything feels like a fight. And as a leader, I can resonate with that so much, how sometimes it feels like we're just battling to get through every day. And Susan, what you wrote is there was no enemy, just a life to be lived. And so I'm confident that as leaders interact with the concepts and principles in your book, and they start with open and they move through the approaches that you're recommending, that they will come to know themselves more fully, to live from the best of who they are on the inside. It's this internal transformation, Susan, that you're focused on in the book that is so powerful and unique, and which I think has the opportunity to help leaders become their best selves. So I applaud you for the way that you're bringing that, and congratulations.
Thank you, Becky. Thank you so much. That means so much to me.
So we do have a few other special guests who want to speak about the power of Susan's book and the power of her work. And I want to call on Marquita Wills, who's an MD and Chief Medical Officer at Johns Hopkins Healthcare. So we're going to spotlight her next.
Thank you so much, Becky. And thank you so much, Susan, for allowing me the opportunity to really congratulate you publicly on this amazing seminal work. As everyone said, combining the Eastern philosophies in really accessible, easy to apply and use Western language is nothing short of groundbreaking. And it is really, truly an honor to be able to celebrate here with you today. I think it explains sort of the scientific why and the practical how of incorporating these relaxation principles into a leader's day, into the ethos of an organization. Those who know me know that I love a good toast and love a good champagne, but since it's the middle of the day, we're going to go with champagne bubbles instead. Congratulations, Susan. I am so proud of you, so honored to be part of this journey with you, and I can't wait to celebrate and toast you in real life here soon. Congratulations.
Thank you, Marquita. Thank you so much.
So we do have another special guest. We have Luis Coriano, CEO of MAP Technologies, and he actually wrote a few pages at the start of the book. Is that the foreword?
Yeah,
so welcome.
First of all, congratulations, Susan, and I really appreciate the fact that I was able to write the foreword of the book, and it really meant a lot to me. So in terms of like our journey with Susan, as a new CEO with highly ambitious growth goals in a short time frame, backed by a private equity firm, I knew I had no time to waste. And I embraced the opportunity to work with Susan to assist me in closing my gap effectively and efficiently. At the outset, my focus was developing my executive team, diversifying our customer base, and changing our product mix. Through our work together, I became aware of my strengths, identify areas of opportunities, develop clarity around not just the what to focus on, but also on the how. I learned the essential skills of effective leadership, including how to, one, maintain clarity of goals under significant external pressures, two, adapt through increasing teams' collaborative skills, and three, create clear, consistent, and effective two-way communication with all stakeholders, which proven to be extremely effective. Susan's work allowed the team to have the tough conversations required to break through the different ceilings that hold companies back from growing. And these are real threats. Our work with Susan has allowed the team to secure significant contracts that we competed with companies that were 10 times our size, which is amazing. The focus and clarity of my team is amazing, to say the least. It's extremely transformational. Before working with Susan, these ideas would have been foreign. As a result of working with Susan for over 4 years, I come to appreciate the wisdom of integration and connection, two of the key concepts of the book. As a result, I now can visualize the future of our company and can extrapolate the future clearly with no reservation. I'm now in a great position to continue the growth of my company, MAP Technologies, including double-digit CAGR growth during the pandemic years. This would have not been possible without Susan's team coaching methodology that made us a truly cohesive team. My team sees Susan as a value-add member, not as a consultant. She cares for the people and creates results. So here's what I'll say to Susan. Here for the success of the InterSwitch.
Oh, thank you so much, Luis.
Hey, thank you.
It's an honor.
Thank you, Luis. We're going to call next on Shreddy Smith, the founder and CEO of Bayshore Capital. And if I botched your name, big time apologies. So please correct me if I messed it up.
No, Becky, you did. It was just fine. Yep, Treddy is how we pronounce it. And Susan, thanks so much for inviting me to be a part of this launch. Your book is incredible. I cannot keep the smile off my face. I'm sort of my best self when you are in the mix. So thanks for all that you've done for me for many, many years. And so for the rest of you, I have been a privileged recipient of Susan's private coaching for many years. And reading this book was like taking a trip down memory lane for me. The book presents a new framework to many, but let me assure you that Susan has been coaching this way with these principles for years. And I stand here as living proof that it works. One of the foundational concepts Susan emphasizes is the power of settling your mind and checking into the present moment. We used to have to begin every coaching session I had with her with breathing exercises. And it was an invaluable practice that prepared me to think creatively and overcome mental roadblocks. She taught me to use my body as a guide, and recognizing that the shallow, quick breathing in my chest signaled a lack of centeredness and a reactive state of mind rather than a responsive one. The simple act of noticing that shallow breathing was the first challenging step. But once I became aware, I could then begin to change it. And like many things that truly matter, the concept is simple in theory, but it's not easy to master. So I'm profoundly grateful for Susan's unwavering dedication to the foundational concepts outlined in her book. Far too often, and me, first and foremost, I focus on action rather than being. And I wonder why I often feel stuck. Susan has taught me that true growth is only possible when we have a strong foundation. So it took me longer than I care to admit, but I finally understand the importance of self-awareness and self-moderation. Now I show up in the world ready to receive, equipped with a heightened sense of self. For those of you who are like me, I recommend paying special attention to the chapters Let Go and Drop In. While I've made great progress in these areas, in my opinion, I am still working on the concepts presented in Chapter 6, which dives into creating real connected communication. But I could speak for hours about Susan's transformative framework for personal and professional growth. But however, as you delve into the pages of her book, you'll discover that she knows that the answers to most of our questions lie within us. Yet accessing that knowledge requires practice and a willingness to change old habits and belief systems. I'm truly grateful for the time Susan dedicated to writing this book And my hope is that it finds its way into the hands of thousands of leaders. With it, she provides us all with a roadmap to self-discovery. And by nurturing open-heartedness and enlightenment within our leaders, we can contribute to making the world a better place to live and lead. So thank you so much, Susan. I love you.
Thank you so much, Treddy. So grateful.
That is so heartwarming. And what shows up for me, Susan, is the fact that you've made these ideas scalable. Since not everyone can have you as a personal coach, everyone can access the wisdom that you've been cultivating. It's pretty powerful. Okay, we have one final special guest at this time. We have Maria Arnone, who's another executive coach, and we welcome you, Susan. Maria. One quick note, I have noticed that quite a few people have come into the meeting with the name Susan Freeman. For those of you who know how to use Zoom, if you want to click to rename, that way we'll know who you really are. We'd love to see you rename yourselves if you happen to come in the meeting as Susan. And Maria, we welcome you now. Yes.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Thank you. So Susan has been a coaching colleague of mine for a number of years, and she has always pushed the edges of effectiveness. And when we've worked together, clients have been extremely happy. There are two things I want to say about the book. Susan helps coaches to guide clients to deep changes, which is quite different than many of the clients have even hoped for in our market, where they want superficial changes in results. Susan has always been going for the deep changes. The second thing is Susan takes complex issues and simplifies them with practical tools that can be immediately helpful to everyone. So this book, I think, will be very important to coaches because they can use it at all levels and take their practice and go deeper.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maria. So at this time, we're going to hear from Susan with her insights about the book, especially for those who may not have had a chance to review the book yet. This is our chance to get a sneak preview into what's inside.
Well, first of all, thank you everyone who has spoken today. My cup runneth over. I am truly grateful and so appreciative of all the kind words today. So I'd like to share with you why I wrote this book and how it came to be, and a few key nuggets, and what makes it a valuable read for a busy leader, which you all are. Inner Switch came about as an organic response to a powerful discovery in the journey of healing my body. It represents over a decade of thinking deeply about the yogic concepts that made this possible. And as with many discoveries, it was serendipitous. My life trajectory changed 23 years ago when a grocery store scale accidentally fell on me. I developed severe burning pain in my left foot. And although my fracture eventually healed, the pain did not. And in fact, it worsened. I had developed complex regional pain syndrome, a malfunctioning of the autonomic nervous system. And it sends painful burning sensations to the site of the injury, often long after the injury itself has physically healed. The burning pain felt as if my entire foot was on fire. Keeping my foot on and off ice packs disrupted every moment of my day and night. And I was told there was no known cure, just palliative care to temporarily relieve the pain after all the other modalities had failed. I also began to feel hopeless to regain any of my previous life functionality. So over a period of years, I came to accept that the Western medical model had done all that it could, and that I had to figure a way out on my own. Now, at this point of my life, I was working as an executive coach, helping leaders grow and succeed. I'd previously served in executive roles for corporate, entrepreneurial, and nonprofit organizations, and I wanted to help leaders do better. In addition to my executive coaching business, I had a yoga practice, and fortunately, it gave me an idea. I knew that an important aspect of yoga is using the body to get into the poses. What we don't always appreciate is that it is also a system of using the poses to get into the body. When we get into postures that may feel uncomfortable on the mat and we focus on the sensations, no matter how intense they may be, we become an observer or a witness of these sensations. And this creates space between the pure sensations and our interpretation of the sensations. Now, my first hypothesis was that if I could use what I've learned on the yoga mat and become an observer, I could perhaps create a similar experience for my pain. I hoped I could learn to detach from my experience of the pain and that I could coexist with it and therefore cope with it. I used my honed yogic ability to become the witness of my pain. And in this state, I had the capacity to be an observer of the sensations I experienced when I became uncomfortable in a pose. And I used these as information about my physical and mental experience. I came to discover that I was not the discomfort. I was the witness of the discomfort, and that I was separate from it. I learned to become an observer of what I was experiencing rather than becoming trapped in the experience itself. I was learning to cope with the pain, but it did not disappear. Yet I knew I was onto something. I began studying yogic philosophy even more deeply, soon realizing that yoga offered so much more than postures. I learned that yoga also offers methods to consciously activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which I had never imagined could be consciously controlled in a reliable manner. By using these ancient techniques, I could consciously control the relaxation of my body by activating the parasympathetic nervous system. I noticed an immediate improvement of my burning pain mediated by the sympathetic nervous system. And after 7 years of deepening my knowledge and practice of yoga, my burning pain finally disappeared. I was able to return to walking, hiking, and even dancing again, activities I could never have imagined after the initial accident. Shocked, surprised, and relieved, I realized I had experienced a true miracle. During the entire time, I continued working as an executive coach. I had started yoga before my injury, primarily for relaxation. However, during my in-depth study to heal myself, I saw parallels between my journey and that of my clients. And I learned that everything was related, appreciating that what I had learned on the yoga mat could be applicable to the field of leadership development. What I also did not anticipate was that the two parallel paths of my life had begun to merge. Using these concepts in executive coaching has never been systematized or used in traditional coach training. I began hearing my client concerns differently. I became curious about how their experiences and their suffering might benefit from some of the things that I was learning. I saw how the discomfort of a leader's everyday life parallels what I had experienced on the yoga mat and could serve as a teacher. By consciously activating the parasympathetic nervous system, clients could shift from their usual sympathetic overdrive to a relaxed state by dropping into the present moment. Now, early on, I was guarded in what I was willing to share. The corporate environment had not yet embraced mindfulness at work as it has in the recent decade. I was afraid of not being taken seriously, or even worse, of being labeled as a woo-woo coach. I cautiously began to incorporate some of these techniques into my executive coaching. I began emphasizing the inward focus first approach without naming it as such. Fortunately, as you've heard, there was a great deal of trust between me and my clients. And I had plenty of opportunity as clients expressed their concerns about difficult business decisions, challenging conversations, conflicted relationships, overwhelm, chronic stress, and more. I summoned up my own courage and I asked them for permission to try some new things. And thus began the process of testing out some of my hypotheses in sessions. What happened surprised me. Clients were taking to the energy work and the guided experiences that I was creating spontaneously. And this was leading to breakthroughs in their work and in their personal lives. Some of them were even calling in to specifically request my experiments. Now, over the last 10 years, I've tested and refined my understanding of how to incorporate the timeless Eastern wisdom of yoga into the realm of business. And the results have been nothing short of inspiring. Inner Switch codifies this ancient Eastern wisdom with a specific focus on its application to business leadership. It does this in a practical, linear, sequential manner, understandable to Westerners. It also includes case studies that illustrate each of the principles. Moreover, there is no requirement for any previous knowledge of yoga, nor use of a yoga mat. Now, due to time constraints, I will briefly refer to the 7 principles today to give you a taste of what you can expect. One of the oldest stories of humankind is the conflict between darkness and light. It permeates every culture and every generation. In the West, we're taught that the universe is inherently dark, and only those individuals who are on a hero's quest are the carriers of light, and that they have the unique ability to illuminate the darkness. They gather strength from those like-minded individuals who strengthen and expand their reaches of light. The problem is that either the light needs to be maintained by a complex system requiring tremendous energy, which ultimately succumbs to entropy and chaos. In the end, the darkness returns. It's just a matter of when. And the cycle repeats over and over, never to be resolved. We know that daylight comes when the planet rotates toward the sun and nightfall when it rotates away. We also know that when we walk into a dark room and flip a light switch on, the darkness recedes, albeit temporarily. We feel confident that when we switch off the light, the room will become dark again. Now, from our observations of natural and electric light, we Westerners have concluded that darkness represents the absence of light within us as well as in the sky. But from an Eastern perspective, from a Vedic perspective, which emerged in written form from the region that is now India more than 3,000 years ago, the resting state is viewed as light, not darkness. And from this perspective, we and everything in the universe are already beings of light. It is always within us and always accessible and is our birthright. And on an individual level, the reason for doing practices such as yoga is not to turn on a light that will penetrate and illuminate our inner darkness, but to remove the darkness that is preventing us from perceiving our natural inner light. Can you see how significant this difference is? Both physically and metaphorically, from the Vedic perspective, we are beings of light, connected to one infinite source of light, which merely becomes hidden or muddied or eclipsed. Darkness, from this perspective, only occurs when our inner light is covered and we hide it from ourselves and others. Now, the sources of coverage are multiple. They include cultural and social conditioning, trauma, or possibly even epigenetics. Additionally, our brains create fears from our past experiences and worry about the future that cause us to distort the present moment. We experience the present through our coverage from the past. Removal of this coverage allows us to integrate our being in the present moment. So those who want to experience light simply need to focus on removing their own darkness and coverage. And when they do, their inner light will spontaneously show up. This integrated presence is where well-being and true leadership live. The question before us as leaders is this: is our inner switch turning a light on from our inner darkness, only to have the light burn out and becoming frustrated when it does? Or is our inner switch removing our inner darkness so that we may always be an infinite source of light? Understanding this distinction makes all the difference. What are the implications for us as leaders? People often look to their leaders to help them reach their goals. A leader's experience, knowledge, tenacity, courage, etc., make them qualified to ask others to follow them. At times, leaders may wish to learn new ways to work with others more effectively. And I believe now is such a time. Traditionally, Western leadership has brought us advancement that could not have been conceived of 100 years ago. And although this approach has allowed us to enjoy tremendous achievements, it has had a high cost. And I believe it is no longer enough for the times we are now living in. How many leaders find themselves meeting resistance, getting stuck, becoming frustrated, disillusioned, or even resentful, internalizing problems until they've become stressed and develop physical symptoms, or even resort to self-soothing, including addictions to substances and harmful activities? When a leader reaches this level, even if they reach their financial or business goals, they will have destroyed their own energy and others all along the way. They may even ask coaches such as myself to help them and their employees. How can we connect with others if we are not connected within ourselves first? And if we are not connected to ourselves and others, how can we mitigate the destructive consequences of our choices on ourselves, our colleagues, our society, and the world? Inner Switch offers a pathway for leaders who wish to break this cycle and have a greater impact than ever before. And they can do this while being joyful all along the way. In fact, they will also experience an inner contentment in the process of getting where they want to go. The book outlines 7 principles drawn from ancient yogic wisdom that can help you shift from unconscious reactor to conscious responder. And when this occurs, you are integrated, ready to connect with others, and can illuminate wherever you go. Inner Switch will take you from Western thinking, focused primarily on action, accomplishment, and results, to learning how to be so that you can influence others in new ways. The only thing we can really control is how we are being within ourselves. That which you seek from the other must always come first from within. And from this, everything flows. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susan. This is so powerful to reflect on. I saw a question that Kira pulled out of what you said. How can we connect with others if we are not connecting within ourselves first? We do want to take a moment to talk with all of you who have gathered about the ways that you can help us in getting this book to more leaders. And so Kira's going to put a slide up with some next steps for you. We would encourage you to buy the book today, even if you have already received a copy of it from Susan. The early sales of the book create momentum on Amazon and other retailers that will help show the book to others who might need the book. So we do want to encourage you to order the book today. It will be available tomorrow and shipping tomorrow from all online retailers. Today, we are still in pre-order status. So I want you to think for a moment about a leader in your life who could benefit from this message, maybe write their name down. And when you click to pre-order the book, potentially you could give the book as a gift to them. There are also some exclusive bonus gifts available when you order the book in bulk for those in your organization. So we would encourage you today to find out about those bonuses that Susan has on offer for those of you who might choose to buy the book in bulk, and we would encourage you to do so. The third way that you can help Susan is that tomorrow Amazon will open up for Amazon reviews. And so a sentence or two or three specifically talking about the ways the book has added value to your journey would be exceedingly helpful. We want to get as many reviews as early as possible to drive momentum for this message. It's really quite easy to leave a review on Amazon, but in the event that you need help, you could feel free to email me. I'd be happy to help give you instructions. And we want to see as many Amazon reviews early on as possible to drive momentum for this title. So order the book to give it away, order the book in bulk to share with your organization, and leave an Amazon review. And I will also add, if you are using social media channels like LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, or you have an email newsletter, or you have a podcast, or you have some other means of reaching your audience with recommendations on books, we would encourage you to please use those channels throughout the next week and the next month to let people know about your learning from Susan's book, Inner Switch, and encourage them to get the book as well. So we would love to have you join us in getting this powerful message out to the world. And those of you who have chosen to be here today are among those ambassadors for the book that can help us expand this message around the world. So thank you in advance of choosing to help us with that. So at this time, we do want to give you a chance to ask Susan your questions or to offer your congratulations. At the bottom of your Zoom panel, you'll see the hand raise function, and you can either use that hand raise function to let me know that you would like to speak directly to Susan, or you can type in the chat. Either way, we will spotlight you. Wait, I forgot something. Before we do that, we have a very special guest who's going to give a toast for the book. So you can be getting your questions and comments ready. You can be finding that hand raise already. And then as soon as we are done with our special guest, we'll move to taking your questions and comments. But first, I want to introduce Dr. Tom Freeman, Susan's partner and husband. And he actually has some champagne. Susan, do you have yours?
I do.
Okay, so we're going to do a toast to the book. When the toast has concluded, we want to invite everyone to unmute your microphone and cheer and applaud. And then after that, we'll give you an opportunity to talk with Susan. So Tom, to you.
Thank you very much. So in our marriage, yoga was always Susan's thing. I was busy with my career and family and felt that I could not take anything else on. And why should I? I was perfectly happy as things were. After Susan's injury, I was grief-stricken by how little my world of Western medicine could help with her pain, despite having tried everything. However, when yoga started to provide her with some relief, I was thrilled and a little bit perplexed. When she said she wanted to study yoga in even more depth because of the success she was having and offered to bring me along for the ride, at first, I was skeptical. But the neuroscientist in me became very curious. How could all of our Western techniques fail, but yoga was helping? Even more importantly, though, our relationship was always based on trust, closeness, and sharing. I saw her life unfolding in a new direction. I wanted to share something that was so important to her and vital to her well-being, so I chose to grow along with her rather than apart. And that choice made all the difference. As I developed my practice of yoga and studied yogic philosophy along with Susan, I started to enjoy it far more than I expected. Susan and I kept at it, and with deeper practices and studies, her pain finally dissipated. We kept on going even more, and eventually the cure became durable. Then Susan started working on her second book, which this is, and asked me to help her structure her literally hundreds of ideas. As an academic who has published numerous scientific articles written in a linear sequential way, I thought this would be more fun than my usual pedagogic and academic projects. Not only would I be able to share this experience with Susan, which I'd never done when writing, but the idea of trying to organize woo-woo into wahoo just tickled my fancy. Soon, though, I began to appreciate that all the disparate ideas and practices had a very clear, deep structure. My hope was that others who are linear sequential like me would appreciate a book organized in a manner where complex Eastern concepts could be made readily understandable and applicable. I got far more than I bargained for. I was not looking for transformation, but it found me nonetheless. This was the first time for any writing project where sharing knowledge impacted me so personally. It shifted me in ways I did not expect, even though I already had over a decade of yogic practice and knowledge. I felt the inner switch happen within me. Time miraculously appeared. I was able to do more with less. Some of my life's most creative work was done during this time. And finally, I experienced newfound levels of enjoyment in my work, life, marriage, and my relationships. I'm so proud of Susan. Inner Switch is the living manifestation of her wise and loving soul that I've always had the privilege of knowing. My wish for all of you is that you receive the many gifts that this book has to offer, as I did. Please join me in a toast to Susan, as well as the launch of her book, Inner Switch, 7 Timeless Principles to Transform Modern Leadership.
Feel free to unmute your microphone if you want to make some noise.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Bravo.
Bravo.
That is good.
Congratulations and thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
So now is the time that you can use that hand raise function if you have a question for Susan or you want to share some of your thoughts with her. You can also let me know that in the chat as well. So I'm going to be looking for those raised hands. And I know Susan is anxious to hear your questions. Susan, one of the things that I was thinking about, I know you told us in the talk that there's no yoga practice required or no yoga mat required to be able to apply the principles in your book. But I'm curious also, does choosing to try yoga practices enhance the experience of implementing the ideas in the book?
Yeah, what a great question. I get asked this periodically. It is obviously a huge enhancement. But the book was written because many of my clients may never choose to set them on a yoga mat. And so the ideas are available for people who will use the practices that I've shared in the book. If one wishes to go very, very deep and have the transformative experience that comes from the postures and the releases within the postures, that's a very, very big benefit. I think what I would say is that had I not had the very strong physical practice, I probably wouldn't have experienced the healing that I experienced from the physical pain. And it's not a requirement in order to obtain the understanding and the simple principles that are discussed in the book.
Thank you for that, Susan. So I see a couple of hands raised. I'm going to call on Terry first. For those of you who might have unmuted for the toast, I would invite you to mute again so that we can maintain the audio quality of the call. But Terry, you're invited to unmute now. It looks like you are.
I just did. Thank you. I am just melting for you, Susie and Tom. Congratulations. Insanely amazing. Beautiful things said and so deep. I was wondering if the concept of massage, where you go deep into the muscle and release toxins, supposedly it also releases different emotions and things. It's a different type of potential pain, but I'm just curious if maybe there's some parallel without going through the positions, but having someone in a way manipulate you to release things that might then help you to be clearer and so forth. So just a thought as something that might be interesting to better understand in the future. What do you think?
I think anytime that you are paying attention to sensations in the body and allowing sensations and experience to present themselves as learning, that is a positive. So whatever modality it is that you use to access that, I think that's always a very positive thing.
Thank you, Terry. We're going to call on Marisol next.
I
I just wanted to say how much I love the book. I am an alumni of Susan's college, Wellesley College, and we met recently and I had the wonderful opportunity to read an advanced copy. And for me, this book was so meaningful because over the course of the last decade, I have worked with a lot of top executives myself. I've been a chief of staff to a top executive at a Fortune 500 company, and I have watched many of them, and myself included, struggle with this sort of need to switch in the moment. So I just loved how applicable this book was for anyone who's doing a real world practice of needing to manage and lead others. I particularly felt that the ability to influence others' energy through your own energy was so crucial and exciting. And I can't wait to keep practicing more of what you recommend. My question for you is, as you go about practicing, what would a daily practice look like for a leader newly adopting these principles?
So that depends. I think that everyone has to find their own way by listening to and trusting what it is that they need in that moment. If you've only got a few minutes in the morning, then a breathing practice with sort of grounding and centering and then visualizing what you want your day to be like is an incredibly powerful way to start. I had a CEO client once who said, when I pull up into the driveway at the end of the day, before I go into the house and meet my wife, I do your practices. And I find that I'm able to leave all the chaos of my workday before I walk in the door. And that has made all the difference in our marriage. So these can be just simple telegraphic things that you do in a few minutes. Those of you who really wish to go much deeper, obviously, I highly recommend a mat-based practice, a yoga nidra practice, and the tools for that are all referenced in the book, along with links and learning. I will say that I was on my yoga mat this morning for an extended period of time in order to be fully, available for this moment. And so I think that it just depends on what you have going on and what your needs are. As much as possible, repetition is preferable.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for
Thank
that.
you,
We do have time potentially for a couple of more people. So if you'd like to raise your hand, I'm looking for those raised hands, or again, you can put a note in the chat. So Linda will welcome you next.
Okay. Hi, Susan. I just want to congratulate you on your book. I haven't gotten through it all, but I love the book. I think it's amazing. I also wanted to just kind of have a shout out to you. Susan and I have done a fair amount of coaching together, and she really does embody these practices. And I've witnessed firsthand where she's gotten a client to actually ground themselves in the coaching and be really clear in terms of intention setting. And I see the power of these practices right in the coaching session. So I just want to commend you on writing the book, on actually living your truth in terms of embodying these practices, and well done you. So I'm excited to finish reading the book.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Linda. So as we come to the end of our hour together, we do want to remind you of 3 or 4 important ways that you can help us expand awareness for this book in the world. So the first one is to buy the book. If you buy it now, while you're here on this call, and think of someone you might be able to gift it to, we can experience important momentum on Amazon. We would also encourage you to consider a bulk purchase for your team and organization. And Susan has some amazing bonuses for you when you do that. A reminder that tomorrow Amazon will be open for your reviews. We would love to have those reviews posted early so that other readers can discover how this book will best help them. And again, for those of you who would take a moment to share the book on social media through a LinkedIn post or an Instagram post or a video review or a newsletter or a blog or a podcast, we would welcome any and all partnering to get this message out to more leaders who might benefit from it. So thank you so much for investing some time with us, for joining with us to share this important message for the world, with the world. And Susan, we want to give you a chance to wrap up with some parting thoughts today.
Yeah. So the 7 principles of Inner Switch offer a truly novel path for leaders. They are: 1, open. Embrace the beginner's mind, which is open to the new and the unknown. 2, learn. Understand the limitations of your mind and its reliance on past conditioning. 3, let go. Move from stressful reactivity to stimuli toward conscious responding. 4, drop in. Experience the way of being that arises from neutral observation. 5, integrate. Bring body, mind, heart, and being together to act spontaneously in balance in the present as you become the observer. 6, connect. Tune into your internal state of harmony before communicating with others. 7, illuminate. Cultivate a space where others may release their unconscious reactivity so everyone can respond powerfully in the present. By working within yourself first to remedy the imbalances that arise in your body and mind, you can be more mindful and ultimately develop the inner presence that results in true influence, power that flows but is not forced. We are not only in the present, we become presence. As this new kind of leader, you can use your professional life as the motivation to achieve success and cultivate consciousness. When you do, you will bring this harmony into your life, no matter who you are with, where you are, or what you are doing. It will affect not only you, but also everyone you influence. The impact can be nothing short of transformational. I hope you will come to see, as I did, this timeless wisdom has survived over thousands of years for a reason. It truly offers the essence of how to become an embodied, integrated, trusted, and therefore effective and powerful leader. When you make the inner switch, you will get things done in new ways, and you will have greater impact, enjoying every step all along the way. The world is in urgent need of this new type of leadership right now, more than ever before. I hope you'll join me in sharing this message, including everyone with whom you interact. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here today, for being part of my world, my village, my tribe. And I thank you for all of your encouragement, support, and assistance in helping spread the message of Inner Switch all over the planet. Thank you.